Hi, I'm Jim Boeheim, and I'm coached to win.
Go get me some knowledge.
I was going back and looking at some of your old clips, and I stumbled upon the Jim Boeheim Day with Mike Tirico as the host that you guys had back in February. And I'm curious, that background, do you have any of those proclamations, any of those awards, or do you have the key to the city? I've never seen a guy handed more proclamations on that day than you. I don't think you've been back there.
Well, nobody's ever coached for 47 years at the same place. They have to give you that stuff.
How special was that day, before we get started, how special was that day to walk out, see all your players?
It was
place that you've been so long.
It was a good day. I'm past it. I don't go to games or anything. I just can't go in there anymore. It's just too much of a distraction, and they're not playing well, so it even makes it harder. So I have an office up there. I go up, I talk to the coaches, and I do some fundraising here and there for the university. And I'm doing, I think, 20 ESPN ACC games this year.
Okay. So you're going to do some commentating.
Yeah, I'm doing the color for 20 to 25 games. It depends on how everything breaks.
That's going to be fun to watch. So I'm going to make sure I tune in for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if we could go way back to the beginning with you.
Sure.
Back to your high school days, back to your youth growing up in Lyons, New York.
Yeah.
Your parents had a funeral home. Well, your dad was a mortician.
Yeah.
What was it like having a bedroom in a funeral home where there were dead bodies down in the basement?
You get used to it. When I was 12, 14, I used to go pick up bodies and bring them home, bring them back to my house. And we would have 2 or 3 funerals going on at the same time sometimes, and they'd be in our living room sometimes. So it's just something you get used to it. I drove the flowers to the cemetery and all that stuff. It was a real family business. We all kind of worked. And ironically, we had the ambulance service then too, which is really crazy because a small town, at that time, they didn't have an ambulance. So if there was an ambulance emergency, we went to.
Regardless of what time it was, they would wake you up and you'd have to go into the
24 hours 7. And I went to see my father help deliver a baby one night out in the country. Just all kinds, taking people to the hospital, all that. It became used to it. I brought everybody home. Dave Bang, who I played with, and 2 or 3 other guys came home for the holidays. And the actual room for the bodies was in the back by my kitchen where they did the work on the bodies.
Yeah.
And I told Dave, I said, go back there, there's some soda back. And he opened the door. He just freaked out. It was crazy.
It'd be a good house to play some pranks on teammates.
That was a good prank. He walked in there and there was a body on it. So
do you think that it shaped your personality, maybe your sense of humor? Do you think it had anything to do with the way you were or the way you are now?
I don't know. Everything shapes you. I was growing up in a funeral home. You're quiet. You have to be careful what you're doing. The funeral's going on the other side of our house. So it was different. You get used to death a little bit. So I'm better most cases about that when people die and stuff. I'm used. It's what I grew up with. But the biggest thing when I grew up, my father was very competitive, incredibly competitive, and pushed me every card game, poker game. It really didn't matter what we did. It was unbelievably competitive. When we played golf, the pro would bet it wouldn't last 4 holes or 3. They'd take bets on how many holes we'd make before one of us would just get mad and come in. I think we win 9 holes once, maybe. It was just, we had just unbelievable competitiveness, and he ingrained me very young to win. We went ping pong. He beat me 21-0, 21-2, and then I get to 10, 5. Then when I finally beat him, he stopped, put the pedal down, and said, "That's enough."
He wasn't like the great Santini. I don't know if you remember that old movie, Robert Duvall, where the son finally wins and the dad is not happy with it.
Yeah, he wasn't happy. He wasn't, what I beat him in every sport eventually. Took a long time, but I finally got him. But he was a competitive guy. My mother was just the opposite. She was really good at things. She won tournaments and stuff. But if she lost it, she was just as happy as if she won. I'm happy for you. You know how people sometimes say you're happy for them when they beat you? You really don't mean it. You know, she was like, wow, really? She just didn't care.
Was that a weird contradiction for you? It's so interesting to me with your mom was, no big deal. Like, man, as long as we got to play it, he had fun. Your dad is no win at all costs.
Yeah.
Where did you obviously, I feel like you lean more towards your dad's side of thinking, or am I wrong on that?
Oh, that's true, 100%. But I did have a little bit of mom enough to not be as bad. As I guess is what I'm trying to say. I had a little bit. I try to beat my kids at the games and stuff you play growing up. And I don't think if there's one thing you need in this world, it's competitiveness. Everybody has all these answers of hard play, work hard, do this, be smart, all that. What you need to be is a competitor. You can be if you're a great competitor, you can not even be that talented. It's very possible. If you compete, first of all, nobody really competes 100%. All very seldom ever get to that level, except I've seen two, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant in my sport. They competed every play, every day, no matter practice. We had Kobe coming to the Olympic team. The first day of practice, he was going after people. We had lost the Olympics and lost the World Championships. Kobe comes with us, and guys were playing, but not how you go to training camp. You're not, unless you play for Bill Belichick, maybe, but you're not going 100%. And Kobe Bryant went 110%. And these guys were looking at him, and he says, "That's it. I'm not here to lose." I'm not going to say exactly how he said it, but he said, "I didn't come here to lose." And everybody caught that. And we never lost another game again. We won 2 world championships and 3 Olympic gold medals. And Kobe was the guy that really pushed that. Coaches can push, but when a player really pushes, I'm sure you've been on teams where one of the players, Brady or somebody, really pushes the team forward. And that, I think that means more than when the coach does it. Although
I was to say that it's so hard to find those guys. Somebody's got to put their what's on the table and take a chance and force guys to follow what the real standard should be, which is higher than what the coach is putting. Every losing team I've been on, I don't care how old I've been, they've all had the same things in common. The great teams, the championship teams, either in high school and college and in the pros, they've also had the same thing in common. And part of that is player-led locker rooms is like one of the top 5 things.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. The coach has to set a standard of work at practice, but players, like we did that. I was with Mike Krzyzewski, who's, you can make the argument he's the best coach in college basketball, modern era anyway. Go back to John Wooden. I don't count, but Mike Krzyzewski has won more games, more championships, 3 Olympic gold medals, and he sets a very high standard and sticks to it with some flexibility. As a leader, you can't just have a standard. You have to have some flexibility. I remember a Jimmy Johnson quote. I don't know if it's accurate, but I use it all the time. When they were doing the tackling drill with the backs, Emmitt Smith was standing there, wasn't doing it. And somebody asked him, he says, why is Emmitt not doing this? And Jimmy Johnson looked at him and says, he's Emmitt Smith. He's not doing this drill. You're fair, but you also take into understand things. And that's why the quarterbacks wear a red shirt or green shirt or whatever, because you're not hitting it. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain standard. But like when Kobe came in, he just took it on the court. We're pushing, and the players think they're pushing. And then he pushes. And LeBron,
you realize you're not pushing nearly as hard as you can.
LeBron said, "Kobe, what are you doing?" And he said, "I didn't come here to lose because we lost the year before. I didn't come here to lose. We never lost again."
What is it like for you as a coach when you're the assistant coach on these Olympic teams? How do you find your lane? How do you find what's important for you to do?
Sometimes with the team, we had so many great players. Sometimes it's just clapping your hands, and let's play. I mean, it's not like you're telling these guys you got to get over the screen or like you do at college. They know what they're doing. You're just there to encourage them, keep the team together. And those teams wanted to win. They just want to win a gold medal. They didn't care who scored. And that's a huge part of it. Because in pro basketball, your agent's telling you got to score more, you got to get better numbers so we can get more money. That doesn't happen in the Olympics. They just were there to win. So guys would come off the bench. Dwayne Wade was the MVP runner-up or maybe MVP in the finals. And he said, I'll come off the bench. And he came off the bench and I think he was our leading scorer coming off the bench. But he didn't care. He just wanted to win. And that's what great players do. They want to win. And everything else falls. I always tell players, and I have a great example, 2 juniors, we had a mediocre season. They had great years. They didn't make first, second, or third team all conference. Their senior year, they had the same year they had. We won the league. They both made first team all conference. What's the difference? Same player. We won. Usually that's what happens. The MVP of the championship isn't coming from the losing team. I think once in every millennium, maybe, comes from the winning team. Winning is what gets you noticed, and it helps you get drafted. The leading scorer in the country is never a first top 10 pick. It's the guy that leads his team to wins and can score. Those are the guys that get selected in the draft. And winning is what makes the difference. And it's a little exaggeration, but Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback, not because he threw the ball better than Dan Marino or any a lot of other guys. He won championships. And that part of that's his team, part of it's Belichick, but he's got 6 of them. My son's arguing.
He's getting 7.
He gets 6 in New England 7. My son was a Manning fan, and so when they were 2-2 or whatever, or 3-2, he was arguing. He didn't till Brady got to 6. He finally let up a little bit.
He conceded. People ask me about Brady all the time. What's special? What makes him this? What makes him that? What I was most impressed with him and his career was his ability to stay in the game, even though he was getting older. You don't work less when you get older. You actually have to work more. It gets harder as you get older, and you've coached forever. You got Syracuse in 1962. What is the secret to your longevity?
With me, it was every team was new. I started out new every year, 0-0. So I never thought we won last year or the year. I never thought like that. And you can as a coach, because you have a bad year or two like Belichick did. He's gone. That's the way it works in coaching. You can't. People say you can have bad years. Not too much. There's always critics out there. I remember one year Roy Williams won the national championship in North Carolina. They did a fan survey and 70% thought he did a good job. The other 30, he won the national championship. There's always the critics there. And when you slip and you don't win, there's always going to be rumblings. That's the way it works. But when you get older now as a player, when I played basketball, players, they drank, some smoked. They didn't work out in the summertime. Dave Bing was one of the great players of all time and a really close friend of my roommate in college. He worked in a bank all summer just to get some experience. But today, LeBron is working out every day. If he takes a day off, he works twice as hard the next day. And they eat right. They take care of everything they're doing. LeBron's a freak.
He's one of one.
Guys are playing later. Brady and LeBron are freaks. But there's guys 36, 37 that are playing at a very high level of basketball.
Do you think it's because of nutrition and training, or do you think it's because of, I would call it what the new cool name for it is, load management? Do you think that's it?
That's nothing to do with that. LeBron doesn't even do that. Chris Paul's 36 or 7. He's playing as much as he can play. James Harden's 36. He's been playing every 40 minutes since I remember him coming in the league. 40 plus minutes a game. Look, crap. Some guys are hurt, like MB, so maybe he needs time off. Ron doesn't take time off.
Do you think that's just the new catchphrase to get people going and to have some sort of debate about what's wrong with the NBA?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. But if you're 36 or 7 and you play 3 games in 1 week, maybe three games in 4 days, maybe you do that. But I don't know. Michael Jordan played harder than anybody I've ever seen. He never took a day off. I don't remember him ever taking a day. I don't remember missing a game or two. If he did, probably did, but I don't remember many of them. And he was like Kobe. He just played hard. I remember he played a game in Atlanta. Atlanta won 4 games or 6 games for maybe 8. And Jordan at that time, they were like 40-4 or something. It was one of their great years. And he played 44 minutes and had 48 points and 10 rebounds and 6 blocks, 6 steals. And so I asked him, Michael, what? You won by 4. Why are you in this game? Why are you? And his answer, and I think it's true, was, look, some kid's going to come to see me play today. I'm going to show him who Michael Jordan is. I'm not going to show him some guy that gets 20 points. He's going to see Michael Jordan. And he did that in practice. He'd wear guys out in practice. They'd bring in guys in practice to play against him, and they'd have to bring 3 or 4 guys in preseason to play him because he just beat them up.
How rare is it to see somebody like that?
And almost never. The only 2 I've seen that go that way, Kobe and Michael. Those are the 2 that I've seen that are just absolutely trying to beat you to death. They're not trying to beat you. They literally would beat you to death if they could. I've seen Kobe do it. I saw him pressing a guy up 40, and he's picking a guy up full court who's a pretty good player and stealing the ball from him and laughing at him. Yeah. And saying that, hey, he's out there. I'm going to get him.
What kind of player were you in college? I don't know if people know this, but you walked on in 1962, and by the time you were a senior, you were the captain of the team.
I was lucky. I was a pretty good player at a small school, and in those days, nobody knew you. You didn't go to camp, so nobody knew who I was. I almost could have gone to Colgate. That time was better, but I would have had to pay my own way. But I would have gone to a mall, maybe a Division II school. But the coach here, Fred Lewis, got the job, and he was just interested. He was a great recruiter. And he told me, I visited, and he said, this is late spring, the year Arnie Davis had won the Heisman. And I just liked the campus. I had built new building opening. And he said, if you're good, I'll give you a full scholarship, which he said that I found out later to 4 other guys. And he had 7 guys. He had 7 guys on the freshman team on scholarship. And in those days, there was 8, 10, 12 guys on the varsity. So there was 22 scholarship guys because we played freshmen. Yeah. I was lucky I got in there. I was a better player than people thought. And I knew playing with Bang, if I would get in the right positions, he'd get me the ball and I'd get some open shots and I could shoot. So I just played off him and got in open spots and got better, a little bit better every year. And it just worked out for me. We had great success. They lost 29 straight games the year before we got here. And we ended up in the Sweet 16. We lost to at Elite 8. We lost to Duke in the regional finals. And we had this 6-point lead with about 8 minutes to go. They were good. And
how daunting was it when you finally become the head coach of Syracuse? When you became the head coach, was there anything that you wanted to change? And was there a strict set of characteristics that you want to instill in your team? Or obviously, did that just develop and then change over time?
I was an assistant, and we had gone to the Final Four, a fluke in 75. And the head coach, Roy Danforth, always wanted to go someplace. He thought we could go bigger. And the following year, we weren't as good, but we got to the tournament. He got an offer to go to Tulane, which he's from went to school in Southern Mississippi. And he thought that was great, which obviously wasn't a great job, but he took it. And I was here, been the assistant, played here, so I talked my way into them giving me the job. And it was a challenge. There's no Big East. It was independence. You had to get players, but you can work hard. I hired Rick Pitino the first week I got the job, and we went out and got Lewis Orr, who became an All-American. Roosevelt Bowie became an All-American. We won 100 games in 4 years, and they're great guys, no problem guys. We had no issues. It was 4 years of this coaching thing's easy. But then we got some characters in after that, and it was a little more difficult. But we started out great and winning, so we established ourselves. And then when the Big East came along, we were already good. Georgetown was good. We were good. St. John's was good. So we just needed that vehicle, and the Big East was the vehicle. Dave Gavitt was smart, got us on ESPN. We were in California. I had 5 players from California on my team a couple of years later, and we had never had a player from California. It was all because of ESPN, kids seeing us play. So it was a good, easy start, and then we just were able to be consistent for a long time. We were always going to have some up and downs, but in the 47 years, I think we went to the tournament 36 times. And 1 year was a COVID year. 2 years we couldn't go. So we went 36 out of the 43 years that we could go to the tournament, that's your goal. And of course, once you get there, then you have to, it's like, you got to win.
Yeah.
I think we got to the Sweet 16 17 times, which was probably the best thing that we did. We got to 5 Final Fours, but get to 16 or 17 Sweet 16s, which that's a pretty good number to get your team in the top 16 of the country.
What is the tournament like? You find out where you're slotted and get ready for that first game. Does your coaching mindset change when the tournament starts?
Not really. I didn't play a lot of people. Normally, people that play 9 guys shorten the bench a little bit. But I played 7 or 8. And in the tournament, because of our defense, when we switched over to zone, if you win your first game on Thursday, you're playing Saturday, and the team has never played against your zone and has only got 1 day to prepare for it. So we were really good in that second game. That's how we got to so many Sweet 16s. It's difficult to play against a defense that you don't see because the last 20 years I coached, people really went away from zones. My first 20, 25 years, everybody played some zone. Some played a lot. But the last 20 years, nobody was playing zone. It just changed. So the zone was really more effective, because, especially in tournaments, because people didn't see it all year. Now all of a sudden they're playing against a zone, and it's a good zone. I remember one year we won the first game, and we're playing somebody in the second game. I won't mention the name. One of their players said, "Oh, zone, we'll shoot him out of that." And he went 0 for 9 because we can cheat toward guys. We don't just let people shoot. Some people have the idea that you play zone, you let people shoot. No, we don't. We have ways to try to, especially take away 1 guy or 2. But
what player do you need if you're going to run that zone? If you're
Well-
going to run that 3 zone, are you looking for a specific player?
no, you can run it with, everybody says big guards. We had big guards some years. That's a little better. But if you have smaller, quick guards, that works too. You don't want to have small, slow guards. That's not good. But if you have size, length is helpful. But we had really good zones with fairly small teams. 6'2" guards. And
What's the coaching point with that? What's the most important thing that you're teaching? Some guy comes from a high school that's primarily man. His whole life has been playing man. And now you're telling him you're going to teach him this unorthodox defense.
it's not something I remember once I asked Coach Knight when I was a young coach, I said, "Could you give me some insight on how you run the motion?" And he looked at me, and he was a tough guy, but he says, "I think he called me son." I was a young assistant. "If you want to come to Indiana and spend some time with me, I can show you some stuff, but I can't tell you in a few minutes or whatever what it is. It's like our zone, I can't tell you. There's different principles and different changes that you can make. The zone changes all the time, and good man-to-mans change. Sometimes they do this, sometimes they do that. Sometimes in our zone, we do one thing, and other times we do another thing. Sometimes we take away, like everybody thinks you have the high post, well, we're going to take that away today. Or we're going to take away the corner. We're trying to adjust to the teams we play against. And we were top 3 or 4 in the league in defense every year in the Big East. And then the carryover in the ACC, were top to the last 2 or 3 years. We just weren't as quick, and we just didn't have the right personnel to play in our zone. If you can't play zone without guys that are athletic, they have to be. In some cases, it's more important for them to be athletic, cover areas and stuff. But it just worked out for me. I played almost all man the first 20 years and some zone. Then we switched the last probably 15 years to really zone. Yeah. You have to buy into it. I remember when we were playing one year, and I had Derek Coleman, who was a very strong-minded player, and he always wanted to go, man, let's go, man. And I said, Derek, just calm down. Well, in the zone work, we got to the Final Four at work, and it's like anything you do. We teach you. So the problem with zone, most man coaches play man 80% of the time in practice every day, no zone. Then they spend 1 week, 10% of their time on their zone. And then they think it's going to work. It's not going to work. You have to spend, like when we played both, we spent 50 or 60% on our man and 30 or 40, 45, 50 on the zone. But you have to spend more time on man. It's more complicated. Zone is, I can teach you our zone in 2 days. To adjust off of it, that takes longer.
Was it tougher to recruit for you, knowing when guys knew that they were going to play zone?
No, because we recruited based on they want to go to the NBA. We had in the Big East, we had the most guys. So I said, you want to go to the NBA? We put the most guys in the NBA. And the NBA, the one thing you have to understand about the NBA, I have never seen them draft a player ever. Okay, not one, based on his defensive ability. They draft on offense. They feel they can. I've had 2 or 3 players that were all defensive first teams in the NBA. They draft on offense. That's what they draft. And play 100 games, you're going to play their defense the way they want it. And if you're athletic, you can play it. Now, if you're not athletic, you're not a good defensive player in the zone, you're not going to be a good defensive player man to man. That's just the way it works. So the NBA drafts on offense. You never see them say, oh, yeah, we like this guy. He's really good defender.
Smart. I'll throw his name out there.
Yeah, and they had to train him because he couldn't score.
Recruiting, since you started in 1962 as a player and then as a first time as a head coach, so many different guys that you recruited. I don't know why this name, maybe because I'm an old Big East guy in the 80s. Rony Seikaly was a guy that I remember for some reason. Is the recruitment of Rony Seikaly the craziest recruitment story that you have?
The easiest recruit I've ever had, ever found.
Really? He was the easiest?
Easiest. I was standing in my summer camp looking out and somebody tapped me on the shoulder. I turn around and I look up and there's a 6'9" guy with a beard, not a beard, but a lot of long hair, good-looking kid, good-looking guy. I said, how you doing? He says, well, I'm introducing Rony. I had heard that he was in a camp the week before. He's from Greece. And I'd heard he played pretty good there, but I never talked to him until this. I says, well, what are you doing here? My aunt lives in Syracuse. And his brother had gone to Syracuse. And I said, well, I heard you're pretty good. He says, hey, yeah. And I said, what do you think about coming to Syracuse? And he said, when I first saw him, I thought he was 22 years old. But luckily, I knew that he'd been at camp. So I knew it was who it was. And I said, what do you think about Syracuse? He says, yeah, I think that'd be good. And that was it.
Who was the toughest to recruit? Was it Carmelo Anthony?
No, he was easy too. I went to see him in Baltimore early.
He was rated high, but he wasn't quite where he ended up, but he was top 30. We sat, talked for a while at his house. He says, Coach, I always want to go to Syracuse. That's what I want. I said, you got to go through. No, that's what I want. And I said, okay.
You
So
looked out at that one. Yeah, that was an easy one.
came up to visit in the late summer, fall, and said, I'm coming. I said, you haven't visited any place. No, I'm coming. And the story really is better. He went to Oak Hill, went from 180 to 220. So he went from good play to really good. But he didn't have his test score, and they all wanted him to go to the NBA. He could go to the NBA. But his mother told him he wrote to college. And so he got his test score, came to college. He couldn't go. He'd have been a top 10 pick at the worst.
Well, you lucked out. So who ran you around the most then? Who put you through the most? Who did you jump through the most hoops?
The hardest was Sam Perkins, the most heartbroken I've ever been. He went to North Carolina, which is a great school, but we weren't in the Big East yet. We were just starting to get good. And so we were not even, he was in Albany, but he was really from New York City. So I went to see him 46 times. There was no limitations. So every night after practice, 4 or 5, 6, I'd drive to Albany, watch him play. And you could talk to him then. So you'd walk, right, the game's over, he'd come out and say, hey, great job, nice seeing you, and then go get my car. So I went to every high school game he played, 30. And I went to every, scrimmage and practice. And North Carolina was way in the league from the beginning, and they went probably 10 times, maybe. But finally, the last couple of times, he says, all right, Coach, you've been here every day. I'm coming to visit. So he came to visit us, and we got in it pretty good. It's us in Carolina, UCLA a little bit, but it was really us in Carolina. And with about 2 weeks to go in the spring, I think we were a little ahead, not much, but a little bit. And his guardian and coach, high school coach, said, okay, we're going to take a week break, no recruiting. And I was going down every day. I said, oh, I didn't know. I said, okay, it's my second or third year, maybe at Syracuse. And they both wanted to go to North Carolina. And for that week, they just pounded him. And he ended up going to North Carolina. I might have anyway, but we got really, I got the phone call at 9:30 on Saturday morning, and I never got out of bed. I just spent the whole day.
What is that like when you put so much time? Even if it's not Sam Perkins, I'm sure there's other guys that you've lost.
He helped them win a national championship. We had a really good team. We went to the tournament, but we had no center. So if he had played for us, a shot at it. And that was the worst one. You lose guys every year that you like to get, but that was the one. Every time I see Sam, I laugh. Every time he came to Syracuse, he said, well, didn't you want to go? He got tired of it. He had a great career in North Carolina. Great guy, but that was a heartbreaker. You get to out of the blue, Rony Seikaly is a great player for us. We went to see Sherman Douglas. Nobody was recruiting him. And I said, what are we doing here? Nobody's recruiting him.
Maybe you know something. Maybe that's what it is. You're the great
three-time All Big East first team player. We had Pearl for 3 years, All Big East 3 years, point guard. And then we had Sherman 3 years. Needless to say, we averaged around 28 wins a year for those 6 years.
Other than the obvious highly talented, highly recruited guys, when you go to all these crazy AAU tournaments all over the United States and you don't know anything other than the guy jumping out of the gym, what are some things that you're looking for? Things that catch your ear or catch your eye?
I went and was at Nike in the main court. There was a kid shooting on the other court, just jumping around. He could jump, and he weighed about 170 pounds, so people weren't recruiting him. But I liked him. He moved good. He could jump out of the gym. And we just started recruiting him. At that time, it was like us and, I don't know, Delaware or somebody. Nobody. Of course, when we started recruiting, then Villanova and Temple and some other schools started. But he liked us, and we even held him off a little bit, which was a huge mistake. But we finally got him. And it was Hakeem Warwick, and he won the national championship by blocking a 3-point shot in the corner that nobody else in the world could have blocked, and he blocked it. So he was a complete unknown, and he helped us win the national championship. So you get those stories. You get some great stories, guys that develop, guys that just are better than you think. And some guys aren't quite as good as you think. It's just the way it works. You're looking at 17, 18-year-old kids and trying to see what is he going to be down the road. And sometimes you're going to be right, and sometimes you're going to be horrendously wrong. We were looking at a 6'6" kid from upstate New York, and we were looking at a 6'6" kid from New York. I went to see the kid from New York. He scored 0 points and had 1 rebound in a game I went to see. And so I was, all right, let's take the kid from upstate who never played for us. And the kid from New York was named Orlando Blackman. He made All-American at Kansas State and played 15 years in the NBA.
So how do you think you missed it? If you're only, I come to all these kids, they're all trying to get noticed. And they don't get the ball, they don't get the shoot, or they miss their shot, they have an off day. So I'm trying to tell them, okay, listen, all the coaches understand that you're not going to be perfect all the time. So I want you to do this. So you get noticed. So how do you know if somebody can impact the game? Or how tell them to impact the game?
What happened with Orlando, I went to see I always go to workout before the shooting, and he wasn't making any shots. And he was a reputation pretty good. He didn't make any in the warm-ups, and then he didn't compete much, and he just didn't do anything. I even actually went back to see him again, and he had 8 points. But he had the right side. He was 6'5", 6'6". He could handle shooting. He didn't handle it that well, but he had a chance. But the kid that we took at that time was a better player and just didn't get better. And that happens. It happens in recruiting. Derek Coleman, Michigan won. It was Terry Mills and Derek Coleman, the 2 great players in Michigan. And Michigan took Terry Mills. They thought he was better. He was a first-team All-American. Derek Coleman ended up being there, but he wasn't there at the time. And so Derek was mad. He thought, I'm better than Terry Mills. And so we got him. And he was better. But you never know with how these things work out.
Talk to me about coaching your own kids. All of them, like not when they're in college. The challenge is coaching them when they're young.
When they're young, you have to make sure they get exposure. Like when my 2 sons were young, I didn't think they'd be that good. They were average speed and everything. They were both pretty good shooters, so they worked out. Individual workouts were good for young kids. I had them with good trainers, good people that played for us, or a guy in town who worked kids out. So we take them to workouts. We drive them to Albany. That was the only good AU program, City Rock. So we drive them there for practices and scrimmages every weekend. And then they'd play wherever the City Rocks played all around the country. We went almost all of them. I was able to go to most all of them. And then as they progressed, they got better and better. And we sent one to prep school after his senior year. Jimmy, he needed another year of prep school. And then he went to Cornell and played well there. And then played his senior year with us. But he was a little better shooter. He went to prep school after his junior year. I thought he'd go for 2, but he was good enough after 1 and came here and, was a great shooter, still a great shooter, playing the G League. But it was fun coaching your kids. It's pressure because you want to win the game and you want your kids to do well. You're watching the game and you're trying to win and you're coaching that. And then you look and, this guy, my son's not doing anything. He's having a bad game. So your parents' side is upset because that's just the way it works. The main goal is just trying to win the game, but you want your sons to play well too. And they both had good careers.
How were you as a dad, though, at the game? When you weren't the coach or when you weren't coaching them when they were in college?
Never said a word.
Were you a yeller? Were you just sit in the corner? Like, how did you act the game?
Never said a word. Just sat in the corner and watched. And never said a word. Never. Never. And I never talked to the coaches. The high school coach would come and ask me something sometimes, but I never, other than that, I never talked to Jimmy. Was at Cornell, and he had a good coach, really good coach, and never said anything to him. I just stay out of it. As a coach, as a father, you have to stay out of it.
Did they ask you for advice? Here you are, this great legendary coach with all this knowledge. You were My dad, every time my dad speaks, I just roll my eye. Here we go again.
They listened. They were good. I didn't give them a lot. I gave them a little. Their mother probably gave more than I did. I gave them a little bit, but they were smart players. They knew what they were doing, and I'd give them tips here and there, shooting stuff or little things I would see. And I still do that today. If I watch them play, Jimmy's playing in Germany, I see something, I tell him, buddies in Oklahoma City, what you released it just too fast there, and stuff like that, little things. But they worked hard and became good players, and I was happy I got a chance to coach them. But coaching is a different thing. It's really what coaching is. You try to give your team the tools that they need to win, and it's your job to pick the right tools out, because every team is different. Players are different. You have different strengths. And as a coach, if we lose, I blame myself. I don't blame it that the players didn't make threes. I blame myself. We should have been taking threes. We should have been doing this. Or if I try to get one guy the ball and he missing, and I think to myself, that was the right thing to do, but I think we should have done this. You're always thinking there's a way you can win a game. Even if you play a perfect game and still the other team's just better, you still think there's a way that you can win. Like I never predicted what our record would be because I don't think we're going to lose a game. So if you think realistically, your team's probably going to win around 23 games or 24. You know that, but you don't say that. You're trying to win every game. And you want the players to think they can win every game. And as a coach, I have to put them in the best offensive situation, in the best defensive situations that I can put them in. And that's why some coaches are better. They know how to get their team in the right position offensively and defensively. And in football and special teams, they know how to coach all those areas, or they get guys that are really good assistants who coach. You probably had Ivan Fears with the Patriots. It was at Syracuse when I was here. Dick McPherson had 6 NFL assistant coaches or head coaches on his staff when he was at Syracuse. Ivan Fears, Nick Saban, Jim Tressel was here. Tom Kaufman was here. Randy Edsel was here. He had the Angelo brothers, who one became the general manager of the Bears. Mike Wojcik was our strength coach.
Yeah, he was my strength coach too.
He was an real son of a gun, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was an interesting character.
Let me tell you, he came to me one day. He was mad because we didn't lift as much then, even football, back in the 80s. I was worried about it. I said, it might be good. Later, I converted. But Derek Holman, he goes, Derek Holman. I said, what do you do now? And Derek was the strongest guy in the league. So Mike had him do some bench. He said, I don't need to do that. I'm the strongest guy in the league. And Mike said, you got it. And Derek said, I won't say what he said, but he basically said, F you, and walked out. And Mike came to me and said, I respect. He told me he wasn't going to do it. I said, okay.
I wanted to just get your opinion on the current state of college sports. I'm just curious if you think that the way NIL structure is currently framed, do you think that is sustainable?
Used to have bad players transfer, guys that weren't playing transfer that weren't quite good enough. Now you have good players transfer because they want more money. I don't blame it. I don't mind the kids. They want to do that, but there's got to be some structure to it. Players should get money. Okay. I don't really believe that, but it's okay. I was happy to get a scholarship. My sons were happy to get a scholarship. If they can make money, fine, good. It just takes away from soccer and field hockey, all those sports. NIL, we've extended all of our budget on NIL and stuff. All the money that would come in, the athletic departments go to NIL. That money used to go to field hockey or track. Now, we made $18 million 1 year in basketball, which is a lot, net. And the athletic department lost money because we fund all those sports.
Yeah.
So I worry about that. Well, we've got to get some. I don't care how much players get. I really don't. If they can get $1 million. The only reason there's an issue is because coaches make so much money. And I understand it. I get that. Like the field hockey coach probably makes 100,000. They don't want to pay field hockey players.
Yeah.
If the field hockey coach was making $3 million, then they want to pay them. But that's not what the case is. It's coaches' salaries. And I get that. When a head coach of basketball is making $8 million and your player's making nothing, that doesn't look good. I understand that. I understand. But we have to remember that guy making $8 million is 60 years old, worked his whole life to get there. And the player is 17 or 18. So I don't mind. There should be some, it should be tackles in the NFL used to make 200,000 not that many years ago. And it was a tough job.
You're offering these guys these deals, coach, like when they're 16, not when they're 20. They're at high school and they're getting these offers for $10,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
The guy that don't play.
Yeah. And the quarterback's making $2 million. That's going to Oklahoma right now this year. I think he's getting $2 million. Then sometimes that stuff's exaggerated, but Rhodes probably close to $2 million. Yeah. So if I'm calling, I'm only making $50,000, I'd probably be upset a little bit. But yeah, I know they have to figure it out. They have to make employees. They have to get it structured. So there's some they always use the example. Coaches leave. 350 schools that played basketball, about 20 coaches left last year. 2,000 players left.
That's crazy.
2,000 left.
Keep that genie back in the bottle. That's what I always say. Once they did that, okay, good luck.
No, it's crazy. When Jay Billis started with this, he was all a proponent for getting the players this money. And I told him, I said, Jay, I know you're a lawyer. I know you went to Duke. It's not going to just be signing T-shirts. They're not just going to go to camps and get $100 or sign. It's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is what has happened. Players, coaches, doesn't matter. The collective wants to win at Texas. They're going to pay whatever that is. If it's 1 year, it's $5 million. The next year, somebody paid 8, they paid 10. And so they paid 10. Oklahoma paid 12. Next year, 15. It's like 20 in football. So that's going to go on until somebody comes up with a solution, which there is only one solution. It's employees, contracts. Here's your deal. Here's your contract, 2 years, 3, whatever it is. And that's the way it works. And you can collect a bargain, whatever you want, but you got to have, you got the NBA, you got the NFL and NBA in college with no rules. So if Tom Brady didn't have a contract, the Miami Heat guys says, wait, Tom, I'm giving you $100 million, come here and play quarterback. Tom Brady would have gone when he was making 20, right? There's nothing they can do except make them employees, get a structure in. If the judge makes this lawsuit work, then the schools can pay the money, the $20 million out. There'll still be collectives. That's the problem. But in the old days, we had no money. Some schools paid players in the old days, and we still got players. So if we have 20 million, we give whatever, 4 million for whatever it is, and some other schools can give another million on top or 2. Well, there's still enough players. You can get players.
Yeah.
You can survive. And sometimes you give those players $1 million or 2 and they're terrible. Florida State gave out $15 million this year, right? And they won 3 games. So it's not a guarantee that you're going to win games when you pay players. But they just have to get it organized a little bit better and have some kind of stability to the whole thing. I'm fine with players getting money. It just takes away from the other sports. And the schools are going to have to make a decision. If we want field hockey, we want crew, we're going to have to pay for it on top of what we do for football.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. Because nobody's making money except for 10 or 15 schools in the world. So that's just the way it is. It's a tough landscape. You like Tony Bennett's the best coach I've coached against in college, I think, of all the coaches, because he could take just pretty good players and not only make them better in his system and win, but he needed them for 2 or 3 years. Now he is a player for a year and leaves. He can't build his system. Can't build the system that way. And I think that's why a lot of coaches just Jay Wright at Villanova is a good friend of mine. He built his system. He took guys that were pretty good, not great, and they developed. He helped them develop. They developed. I laugh at development a little bit. Julius Erving played for a very nice coach at UMass, but he was Julius Erving, not because of the coach. Larry Bird played at Indiana State. If he played for Bob Knight, they would have said Knight developed him. No, he played for a guy at Indiana State who had just in his first coaching job became Larry Bird. Great players become great players because they're great players to start with. You can help them, but you don't make them great players. If you get a kid that's number one in his high school class, he's probably going to be pretty good, although once in a while there's a failure there. But he's probably going to be pretty good no matter what you do coach him. But development is overrated a little bit. You work hard and get the player to work hard. If you keep it through 3 years, if you take it, we took 2 guys who were not rated in high school. They were first round draft picks and played 10 years at the MTA. Did we help them? Probably, but that's just the way it works sometimes. We've taken other guys who were rated pretty highly and they didn't get any better. Yeah. A lot of that's just recruiting myths and stuff. But if you want to coach, you got to get good players and you got to get them to play together. And if you do that, they have a chance to win. Coaching does make a difference. Bill Belichick didn't get worse as a coach. He had a good quarterback, really top 10, say, in the league with the Patriot teams you had. You've probably been pretty darn good. You
will be pretty darn good, yes.
Might have won a couple Super Bowls, maybe. Yeah. But the combination, I'm a Brady fan. I just, especially as he got older, the way he could play football at that age. I don't care if you're a quarterback or what you are. But I asked Gronk once when he came up here during the time he was retired, and I said, was Brady lost something with his arm? He says, no, not anything. This was when he, near the end, at Boston or the Patriots. Yeah, he throws it the same way. I don't know if you felt that way, but he said, no, throws it the same way. That's for a 40-year-old quarterback. That's amazing.
That was always my thing. He had more responsibilities, less time, but needed to train twice as hard as he did when he was in his 20s to be just as successful. You have to have a psychotic kind of switch in your head to convince yourself to keep training. Because I just got sick of training. I had 13 years, and I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get eat anymore. I don't want to work out anymore. I was cooked. And he was able to do it for 23 seasons.
Unbelievable how he ate and trained. The whole thing. And LeBron does that. And they're outliers. That's just they don't make people like that ever. 2 guys. Hi, I'm Jim Boeheim, and I'm coached to win.
Wow, that's perfect. Now, you just